Welcome to NARAL's The Morning After. Each week, our podcast brings you the latest on reproductive health care, progressive politics, and the fight to keep abortion safe and legal. You can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, YouTube, and on our website at prochoiceohio.org. The program also airs each Friday morning at 9 on WGRN 94.1 in Columbus, Ohio. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ProChoiceOH. NARAL's The Morning After is a production of NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. Enjoy the show!
Hello, Hannah here, Senior Organizer with NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. This week on The Morning After, you'll hear from our current team of Northeast Ohio interns, Ari Leandri, Caitlin Plummer, and Gianna Formica. They're talking about what reproductive freedom and justice mean to them, what they've been working on this summer, and why it's important for young folks to be involved in this work. If you're interested in joining our internship team, we're accepting applications for fall until August 13th. You can apply at www.prochoiceohio.org under the Jobs and Internships section. Our positions are paid, part-time, flexible, and really fun if I do say so myself. Hope to hear from you soon, and thanks for listening to NARAL's The Morning After.
Hey everyone, my name is Caitlin. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm one of the interns right now at NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio for the summer. And a little bit about me is that I'm a senior in college right now. My major is gender and health, and I really want to work in public health in the future, specifically maternal and child health. And yeah, that's kind of where my passion lies.
Hi, I'm Ari. I use she, her pronouns. A little bit about me. I'm an incoming third year at Oberlin College. I'm studying comparative American studies with a minor in pre-law. On campus, I'm an abortion doula, and I also work for our Sexual Information Center. And yeah, in the future, I plan on going to law school to continue work in the reproductive freedom world.
And I'm Gianna. I'm about to be starting my undergrad in urban studies, and so I'm very new to to figuring out what I want to do, but I know I just want to help people, and reproductive health has been something that I've been passionate about for a very long time. So I thought, why not as well just apply at NARAL? So that's something I'm passionate about, and I can see myself doing in the future as well.
All right. So we're gonna introduce NARAL for a second. I'm guessing y'all are kind of familiar with it, since y'all are following the page on the live and everything. But we'll give I'll give an official description of NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio and kind of what they do. So NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio is an advocacy and lobbying nonprofit organization determined to make sure everyone in Ohio has the right to make personal, informed decisions about their bodies. Our work is specifically focused on reproductive choices, such as preventing unintended pregnancies, bearing healthy children, and choosing legal abortion. NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio has a 501(c)(3) leg and a 501(c)(4) leg, and a PAC, a PAC, which essentially means that you participate in both general education and also outreach, but also more politically focused spaces. So in those political spaces, we monitor and analyze legislative activity, inform the public about those bills and laws and policies, and even lobby and communicate with government officials to ensure that all Ohioans' reproductive rights are protected. So yeah, it's a little bit of just to what we do here. So we can talk about what we do as interns too. I've talked a lot, so that's what about what we do as interns.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No, I can start. So, a lot of what my favorite part, I guess, about working at NARAL and Caitlin had mentioned was just learning about analyzing legislative activity, because that's super important to know it's hard to understand sometimes for somebody who doesn't know much about the certain verbiage that's used in bills and stuff like that to learn about what's being put on the plate of what are they voting on relating to our rights as human beings. So that's something that is interesting for me as somebody who wants to be more politically active, to learn specifically what those things mean. And
so personally, one of my favorite things so far about working at with NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio was that I get to directly impact my community. I'm from Lorain, Ohio, and I got to engage in the community conversations that were happening, partnering with Ohio Women's Alliance. So I got to sit in on that call, not only as a NARAL intern, but also as like a community member. So I got to have like those two sides of input. And I just thought that that was so cool that I got to really like engage in my own personal community, as well as the greater Ohio community as well. But
yeah, as someone from like not from Ohio, this was like really, really like interesting for me too, just because I'm from Michigan. I might have mentioned that earlier, but I'm from Michigan, and like Ohio is right below, but it's so different than it is in Michigan, and so honestly, like really learning on like what's going on in Ohio, in terms of like legislative and everything, it's like really emphasized to me like how much like how different state governments are. And like I didn't really think about that before, and it really does like matter like what your states are doing, and like that local level like emphasis is super, super important. And like I knew that before this, but like seeing it in real time, like looking at like from the outside looking in, it's just really, really interesting, and I've never had that experience before, and that's something that like working here at NARAL Portrait, Ohio really gave me, and I like will literally use that in like all the work I do. Just like these grassroots organizations and like other people doing the work, are super, super important. And it's like awesome that NARAL Portrait, Ohio is helping like assisting those organizations, and also like influencing on their own. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing I've really enjoyed this summer is like Ari and I went to Columbus for an event, and so we got to meet a lot of those people that are doing the same kind of work that NARAL Portrait Ohio is doing, and that's like those are connections that no matter what sort of like social justice sphere I go into are connections that I'm going to need, and like it's good to sort of get your foot in the door in a way of like these are the people that are doing the positive work that we all believe in, and that's like a really cool thing as well.
yeah,
I'm so jealous I couldn't go. That experience seems like so much fun.
yeah, it was really cool, and also like a part of like demonstrations and protests like that in the past, but getting to be like on the side of it and like really get to see the background that goes into like making those events happen was so interesting. That was really cool.
So we've kind of like talked about like the term reproductive like justice a little bit, reproductive freedom. We've kind of like talked about this a little bit. They are different, so I'm gonna like define reproductive justice for everyone on the call. It's very easy to like use those terms interchangeably. However, there's distinction for a reason. So I'm gonna like define really quick reproductive justice. We're gonna use Sister Song Definition, who's like a pioneering reproductive justice organization. They're absolutely incredible. So they define reproductive justice as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children that we have in a safe and sustainable communities, which is like really important things. And even though that's not necessarily like the work that we directly do as NARAL Portrait Ohio, I think that's something that we're all pretty passionate about, which I guess is like a segue into what does reproductive freedom and justice look like and mean to you specifically?
When I think of reproductive freedom, reproductive justice, I think of, well, one, bodily autonomy, but also healing, especially with reproductive justice. One of the first things that come to mind is healing. Like as a woman of color, healing my community from past traumas, and also like just the ongoing, oh no, did we lose Gianna?
I'm about to add her right back in.
Oh no, I lost myself. Okay, I'm back. I'll just wait till she comes back. Okay, hi.
There you go.
Sorry.
You're good.
So I was just saying that, yeah, reproductive justice to me means like healing for my community from like past trauma surrounding lack of bodily autonomy, and just like ensuring that for the future generations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Definitely the healing part. There's so much, like I said, like trauma, generationally,
Yeah.
that happens, especially to like marginalized communities and our communities everywhere. And so, like, yeah, doing this work really is taking steps towards like healing and like healing our future generations and everything, which is awesome.
I agree. Like community care is just so important, and I think that that's like one of the biggest things in reproductive justice. Just like making sure that our community is being cared for and advocated for. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of similar to like what that means to me as well. Like I kind of mentioned like how doula access is really important to me. And like doing that doula work myself, like really just learning about what it is. And it's about like, you know, healing people and like really caring for them and giving them that care that they may not get in like a professional setting. And so like making sure that pregnant people, you know, are like getting the emotional support, the physical support, the right information that they need, because they're not often given that in like medical environments and stuff, or even like, you know, even given the options completely of like what the choices they have when it comes to like having their children. And so like, yeah, just like giving the care that we were like so, I don't know, denied basically for decades, centuries even. Like even though like it's really hard to do that work, you know, like in a big frame, there's so many things we can do like individually too. And like that's why doula work is important to me, because like it's like an individual, something I can do to like make that change in somebody's life. Yeah. So what about you, Gianna?
Yeah, I love what you both just said. And I really think that that community focus is something I'm really passionate about too, because I think there is so many people who, there's a lot of stigma around abortion access, and just even just healthcare and like sex ed in general, and like things that are like knowledge that you need to know as just a person who exists, you know, like there's so much information that a lot of people are being denied. And so that kind of education aspect, I think, is really important to making to having people be like, you know, making informed choices and having the access to make different choices as well. So like if you don't know where to go for a certain type of care that you need, how are you gonna get that care that you need? And that's can be life-changing. That, you know, that can be a matter of that is a really big deal. And even just not even talking about abortion care, but other like services that like places provide, and like prenatal care and stuff like that, because those are things that get overlooked so often within communities, because there's like stigma against women's bodies, or like AFAB bodies. There's just like stigma against being allowed to exist in your body, and so then there's no information to you to know how to take care of your body. And that's not that's something I'd like to see change. But I know that like is like the work that the educational work that like NARAL does, and helps communities fix that, which I think kind of connects to both of your points as well. But
yeah, the whole education thing, there were so many things I did not learn about my body until like way too late. Not too late, but just like way later in life. Like different kind of like birth controls and things like that. I thought there was literally just the pill and condoms. Like I didn't know there was like a whole other, like, you know, like plethora of options that like people can get. And like I've never imagined that even being taught in high school. Like, and it should be, you know, like at least in my opinion, I think it should be. Cause like, you know, when you know better, you do better, and you like, you know, make more informed choices for yourself. Yeah,
I don't know what it's like in Michigan, but definitely Ari can attest that the like sex ed in Ohio is not where it needs to be nearly at all. And so so it's important for places like NARAL to be doing the educating and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, for sure. Abstinence-based sex ed is not it. So
at all. Yeah, wild. Guess we can like move on to like our next question maybe. I don't know if anyone else wants to ask it or not, or I can keep on moderating. I don't care.
I can ask.
Yeah.
Are we on to why is it important for young people? Okay, why is it important for young people to be interested in reproductive freedom and justice movements?
Like you just mentioned, honestly, Gianna, like with like, you know, knowing like sex education is a part of reproductive freedom, you know? And like those are like our bodies basically, especially when you're like our bodies basically that are like kind of, you know, being politicized almost, you know, like we're not really getting told the whole truth, so therefore we can't make decisions that we want to make. And so like even like being younger, you know, like knowing what like your body can like, you know, does or doesn't do, or just like having like the full picture of things can really like impact the like trajectory of your life, and like can, you know, reduce things like unplanned pregnancies and things. And that's like, you know, the ultimate goal basically is like having things in place to make sure like people can, like I said, like, you know, have children or not have children, and like make decisions on when that happens, and like be fully informed like when it happens. And so like, yeah, it impacts all of us. It's not something that you just deal with when you're like older or anything. Like it doesn't have to be like quote unquote sexual to like know about reproductive freedom, you know. It's just like basic information. Yeah, that's just what I think. How about you, y'all?
Yeah, and that's definitely like that's not even like being so like wanting to get involved in this kind of work that we're doing. That's even just knowing so you can keep your own body safe and healthy, which is just should be number one important thing for everybody. So I think that sort of knowing like, and then bringing it to like the justice movements part, just knowing what kind of rights you have over your body and your autonomy and agency in this country, or specifically within like whatever state you're in, is important. And to know what your friends might have to deal with that you might not be going through, and that kind of thing, and how that legislation works, I think is important for at least everybody to have just like a general basis of knowledge. And the world is changing so rapidly that it's so important for people like us to be doing this work and to be getting into, because there's not a lot of young people doing this work, as we've noticed, and everybody's voice matters in the conversation. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that this all just again circles back to community care, you know, like youth are important members of all of our communities, and you know, and also like Gianna, you were saying about like stigmatization of bodies. I think that you could really see that, and why maybe there are barriers to youth getting involved in this work. And yeah, and like Caitlin, like you said, like the sexualization of like this work, when it's really health. It's all about health. It's, you know what I mean? It's healthcare. It's yeah, community care, and yeah, so important.
Yeah. The like coolest thing too I learned like this summer though too, that kind of goes on with that question, is that like everything can kind of like, not everything, but so many social issues that I didn't really think about that are associated with reproductive freedom, you know. Like learning that like, you know, access to parks and everything like really has an impact on like not only the pregnant person but also like their child growing up. And like every like so many issues that we all care about kind of can connect back to reproductive freedom, or reproductive justice, even like the three pillars of reproductive justice. Like that whole, you know, have the right to like parent, and family, you know, have a family in an environment that's safe and equitable. Like so many things impact that. And so it's not even just about like, you know, the things that everyone thinks about, like abortion access or like, you know, birth control access. It's like everything. These things all connect and are all super, super important. And yeah, that's just something I've really, really learned this summer, and like will always keep in mind.
yeah, and I think that kind of hits on our next question, which I think we've all kind of talked about a little bit already, but what is your favorite or most fulfilling part of the work you do at NARAL? Caitlin was starting to talk about like just important things that we've learned, you know, so if either of you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, that would be mine. It's just like the things that I've learned, honestly. Like this, like not this world, it's the like formality of the world. Like I've always known, of course, about like reproductive freedoms and things, you know, like talked about my body and just like notice certain things, but not really having like the vocabulary or like having the experience really match with that hasn't really happened before this year. And so like I've learned so much just this year in general, and like working at this internship has like taken that even further. And like I said, it's truly just learning. I've learned so much, like I can't even like verbalize it all. I've been talking for hours. But it's been great to learn and also talk to people too, and not just read it in a book, but like see people's experiences and hear about their concerns. Like even like I really loved listening to the community conversations and everything, and you know, like hearing that people really care, and we know that they do, but like hearing it firsthand has been really, really fulfilling. And it definitely like impacts, like I really want to always do community outreach on everything I do, and so that's been really, really nice to hear about.
Yeah.
I agree for sure. Those community conversations that we've been doing this summer are super important, and we've all seemed to have gotten a chance to listen to some and participate. I plan on participating in the one for my county in a few weeks, but that, and this goes back to Ariana's point of community care, like that, and how cool, like cultivating those relationships within communities too, is really important to like the work we do. And I think I agree, like community outreach and community engagement is something that I'm very passionate about, and I didn't really know much about before this summer. So
Yeah, and I think that something that this internship has really taught me was the importance of state, like local level organizing. I think that like I have fallen victim in the past to like thinking so big and so broad, and I think that really it's so important to like, again, community care and to focus, you know, like locally and statewide, like just the changes that you can make. It's just, yeah, it really has changed like the framework of my thinking when I think about reproductive freedom and reproductive rights and access, definitely.
So I want to like, what about your personal journey has inspired you to want to work for the like reproductive justice or reproductive freedom cause? Yeah.
I like to think of the quote that a lot of people use where they say, everybody loves somebody who's had an abortion. Because I've had like a few people in my life go through that experience and talk to me about their personal journey, and just learning about how that affected somebody so close to me who and what the like access to care means to them, and how having places like preterm or Planned Parenthood available to them meant so much to them. That kind of sparked my interest in caring about this movement, is the relationships I have in my own my own life, my own community. So and then it's just kind of spiraled from there, because learning more has gotten me more interested in supporting and being a part of, I guess, making the world a better place, as cheesy as that might sound, but that's like the best way to put it. That's all I want to see in the world. So and have like access to care for people. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of in the beginning too, but what inspired me to work in this world is really just my identity as a woman of color, and being like the women of color who've come before me, even personally in my life, and the way that lack of access to bodily autonomy and lack of access to health has really affected them, and also specifically like the forced sterilization of women in the past, women in my family in the past, and just, you know, I again goes back to like healing, and I'm doing this like to heal that generational trauma, you know, and to help as many people as possible to ensure that you know never happen again, and that yeah.
Yeah, definitely similar to you. Like my experience as like a woman of color has really like impacted my like call to this work, and like want to do it in the future, especially as like a like plus size woman, you know, like and then on top of like, you know, being a Black woman, it's just like the medical system is not very like geared to like treat us nicely, and like I've had horrible experiences on my own, and like dealing with like non-serious things like an ear infection, you know, and like I can only imagine how like much worse that could be or has been for other like folks like me who have similar identities as me, dealing with something as serious like, you know, as their reproductive health. And like I've seen it firsthand on like how women in my community, especially like, you know, women who are underage or like folks who are, you know, queer and trans and stuff, are treated. And like I want to make sure like I can do whatever I can to like let them know that they're cared for, and that like if someone else doesn't have their back, I have their back, and that we're working on making sure that like someone's forced to have your back. Like even if this person is completely against you, I want to make sure there's something like in place to make sure that you're treated the right way, and you're supposed to be treated with the dignity and respect that you deserve. And that's kind of why I'm like going towards public health in that way, just because that's something that I can work on in that field. Yeah. Okay, I guess our last little question here, since we're nearing 7:30, which is crazy, it went so fast. What advice do you have for others who don't quite know how to get started in the repro sphere?
This is a
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of these folks watching are at least connected with NARAL. So, I guess one thing that the way I guess I got connected with NARAL is I found an event that was happening at a local abortion clinic, and it was a chalkathon, and you like donated some money, and then you went and like drew on the chalk in the parking lot to like thank you messages to the employees and stuff. And that's when I met some of the people that work at preterm and NARAL, and found the opportunity to do this internship. And so just following NARAL on Instagram, and then going and they post like stuff all the time, and like really just like doing a Google search of like who are the organizations near you that are doing the work that you want to support. And this could go for any subject, but especially repro. And then giving them a follow on Instagram or Twitter, because their social medias are always like alive with stuff. And there's, especially like now because of COVID, like events are happening in person, and there's still Zoom events that happen all over the place. So just really, I feel like social media, we live in such a social like world that it's really become a good tool to educate ourselves and our friends as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Social media activism is so vital now. I think that we're seeing like never before the impact of social media on social justice issues. And I think that I totally agree with what you said, you know, following people, but I think that like also having like a really local focus, like Gianna, you were saying, like like in your community is how you found NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. So like, yeah, like really thinking locally about how you can make change, I think, yeah, could really help you like get your foot in the door.
Yeah, not to like copy both of y'all, but definitely local, truly just like yeah, looking up, even looking like listening to the voices, you know, of the people who are pioneering in your community, who are doing the work in community, because they're the ones who really like, you know, impact that change and are really like working hard to like get that stuff going. So like, or even like reading or following people on Twitter, like queer, trans, voices of color, basically, who are, you know, doing this work and have been doing this work forever. Even though like NARAL itself isn't, NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio, it's like a white-led organization, you know, but they like, one thing I really appreciate about this organization is that they're always trying to listen to, you know, like folks of color's voices and trans folks' voices and queer folks' voices, which is something that we all can do. And so like, yeah, really, even if it's just Twitter following and like listening to people what they like write, that can like get you to know more events, you know more people, you know, connect on that level. And like Elle said, those local organizations, there's people doing it everywhere, doing work everywhere. So really just keeping your eye open and, you know, using the internet to your advantage. Yeah, but thank you everyone who jumped in and tuned in. Are there any last words from either of you before we close out?
Get involved. It's really fun.
Thanks for listening to us talk about what we care about.